Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weaves in the Trenches podcast. We're really excited to have Bob and Jess Bocci here. They own a private PT clinic, and their experience is amazing. I'm really excited to have them on. As you know, the topic of this is going to be everything leading up to the first patient visit, from attracting new patients, communicating through that entire process, and making sure that everyone ends up in the office if possible, and being treated. So we're really excited to have them. A little bit of background, and then I'll turn it over if I miss anything. But Bob is very, very experienced in the PT world, has owned a practice, built a practice up, sold it, restarted, worked for probably the company that bought him, but for a large group, and then ended up building a second practice, has grown that really well, has been doing this since before I was born, actually. So he's got the experience. When I say that, I really mean it. And their practice has always been on the cutting edge, and they're going to provide some really great value here today. Jess, his wife, is the office manager. She comes from the insurance world, implemented some really cool things that they've already told me about as far as attracting new patients. So she'll have some really good input there. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else you want to add to how awesome you guys are?
I think we're good.
We do have a cat with 6 toes on each finger, so, or each hand. So that's about the only thing I can add to that.
Nice. Great. Well, let's just jump right in. So first things first, you've got to attract someone. You've got to get in front of them. What marketing avenues are currently working for you guys? And where are you getting kind of the most bang for your buck as far as marketing goes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's changed a little bit during this year. We were working with a company doing workshops and paid media. We did that for a period of 3 years. And during that time, we just had an awesome response from the community, and we really made an impact in the community. We haven't done that nearly as much since COVID started. We were doing live informational workshops. We've stopped that. Some of our counterparts who were doing that went to virtual workshops. We chose not to do that. So what we've been working on is direct email to patients through our website vendor, which is eRehab. We've been working on a past patient reactivation plan, also through eRehab, that basically goes back through our patient list, finds the people who we've treated before, who know, like, and trust us, and using text messaging has set up a reactivation program that has been incredibly successful. We do still market to physicians by sending them initial evaluations and reports. We don't go out and call on them any longer. But we have some contracts where we are the sole provider. That drives a lot of our business as well. So the only thing that's really changed is we're not doing the live workshops. We're not doing the paid media. We do a lot of our own posting on Facebook. Last one was about cats, which for some reason got an incredible response. So that's kind of what's changed for us. And we were very busy in the beginning of the year. We dropped off. We've come back pretty strong. We are finally back this month, last month and this month, to real close to what our numbers were pre-COVID.
Awesome. And so that everyone knows, Bob and Jess are still operating in a location that's still shut down. A lot of places have opened completely. They're in California, and so a lot of their marketing avenues are a little bit restricted as far as what you were doing with the live clinics. So I want to know a little bit more about these reactivation efforts. Are these just templated? You find the patients and they send out the emails and texts, or is this something that you guys are thinking through the process and putting the texts and emails together?
We're just using our past patient list, providing that patient list to eRehab. And what's really the beautiful part of this is Once they get the list, they they scrub the list, of course, contact the patients, set the appointments. We have a calendar and a dashboard. We set our appointments that we do virtually. I do them virtually as opposed to in the office. For a Friday, we line up patients every hour, and that's how it's been working. We don't have to pick up and contact the patient. It's all done through eRehab.
That's really awesome. And, having been in small business, repeat business is one of the places that, people that have dropped off are inactive, but already know that you have done a good job and helped them a lot. They're a lot of times the easiest ones to get back in. So that's really great advice there.
Yeah,
Awesome.
A lot of those patients are not necessarily seeking physical therapy today, but they have a problem. And when you reach out to them and you bring it to their attention, because they know, like, and trust you from before, it's pretty easy to get them converted back into the office as a patient.
And it's a great referral source for new patients because they've been to our office, they've had good experiences. That's just a trigger of, oh, my friend so-and-so has back pain, I should send her to you, which has been amazing. And our Google reviews, especially with the Weave dashboard, click it, send the request at the last visit. And that's increased a lot during this too. We've been really cognizant of that. So when people search for physical therapy, just like I do with any other kind of search, I want to know how many reviews they have. So that's really helped us out a lot too. So, when you provide good care, you want everyone to know about it. So it's a one-step, process, and it's just made our lives so much easier.
Definitely. That's awesome. And I feel like that's kind of like a positioning, right? A brand positioning. How do you put your best foot forward when you don't get to tell someone about, that's the way the internet works, right? My almost my entire career has been in internet marketing, and it's not like someone finds you and you get to explain why they should come in
Right.
by having a conversation. You got to put your best foot forward, and reviews definitely help do that. So that's really awesome. As far as branding goes, how are you branding yourself online? Where are those things happening, and how do you position your business? And to maybe simplify this question a little bit, there's always, with Google, and there's almost always someone else that a patient could go to. How are you setting yourselves apart and branding yourselves so that it's a clear answer of why they should come to your office?
That's a great question. And we've just, over the last 6 months, changed how we approach that. We adopted a format that was developed by a guy named Donald Miller, and it's called Building a Story Brand. And Donald Miller is based out of Nashville, Tennessee. And once I started looking at that, it really became clear to me that we didn't necessarily need to be different from our competitors, but we needed to communicate better to our patients. So they understood what we offered. They understood clearly what the value proposition was, and we made it easy for them on our website. We redid our website to choose to come to us. And I think a lot of times, and I've done this, as I told you earlier, since 1974, we make things harder than they actually are. And we've actually simplified our message. Mm-hmm. You have a problem. Let's identify the problem. We're the guide. We can help you, take you through the problem and show you how to be successful. And so by simplifying our message, especially today, there's so much information overload with the pandemic and the election and everything that's gone on this year. That actually has helped us by becoming more simple and clearer in our message.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's great feedback. I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things. We want to communicate all of the reasons why we feel like we're better or why they should trust us more. But at the end of the day, especially in small business, there are a lot of people that have, for most people at least, there are a lot of people that have similar credentials, similar experience, and to overcomplicate that, it's information overload for someone that's searching, right? They already know what they need. They wouldn't be searching for a physical therapist online if they didn't know they needed a physical therapist. So keeping that message simple, just saying, hey, we're the solution. This is why. That's really, really great advice. And I feel like having worked with a lot of small businesses and owned small businesses, it's really easy to overcomplicate that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So after you've attracted someone and they found you online or they found you through a physician, there's always, at least in most small businesses, there's usually a drop off from initial inquiry and scheduling an appointment to actually getting into the office. And a lot of times, actually, that's the highest cancellation rate in small business is I found you, called you, scheduled an appointment, especially with COVID where things are kind of like up in the air a little bit. A lot of people have seen that number increasing, their new patient cancellation rate. Have you seen that? And if you have, are you doing anything to mitigate that?
We've tried really hard. Our staff is incredibly what's the right word? Diligent in calling the people once we either get a referral or get someone on the phone. They understand that that's the time that is the most important to this person. They're in pain and they know that we can help them. So our turnaround time between scheduling or having them on the phone and getting them on the schedule, our goal is less than 48 hours. There's obviously things that can prohibit that from happening, but we've also implemented a telehealth option too for people who know they need help, aren't comfortable coming in, so they don't have to wait until this blows over. So we've done really good about that. And, on purpose, we've limited the amount of time that our patients spend in the office unnecessarily. So we've implemented the entire intake process basically is done prior to them arriving to their appointment via email and digital intake forms and reminders and just a lot of different touch points between that time, those 2 days to 3 days that we have to have them in the office. So our staff is incredible, and it's just like we had talked about, it's information overload. So it's just bits of information multiple times, and it builds that relationship, and it just lets them know that we're really excited for them to come in because we're helping them get back to their normal life. So it hasn't been the easiest thing, and we're not 100% at it, but the tools that have been in place have really helped us streamline the process so it's not as big of a deal as it used to be.
Yeah, that's great. A couple of things I want to pull out that I heard. This is really great information. First of all, speed to lead or speed to getting someone on the schedule, getting them in contact with you.
Yeah.
In almost every industry, that's vital. For anyone that doesn't know, I owned a dental practice for several years. But if you've got to schedule someone a couple weeks out when they want to get in tomorrow, they're probably going to go somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. We live in an age where we're used to getting things very, very quickly, right? We want something, Amazon gets it to us tomorrow or the day after, right? It's we think about something, we've got a nagging pain, we make a call. If I'm hearing, we can get you in 2 weeks or we can get you in 3 weeks, I'm like, I'll find someone else that'll get me in sooner.
Absolutely.
So that was a great point. And then something else that you brought up is you have digital forms that they're filling out prior to the appointment. That's a commitment, right? And as I've gone through some effort, if you've sent me digital forms and I've filled those out, I've already put in some effort there, and that's tying me to the practice already. So both of those are really, really great ideas. And then, like you said, just being diligent, going after them, realizing that if you don't get them on the schedule as quickly as possible, someone else probably will. So right. Awesome. That's super valuable. So the one question that I want to ask right now is relating to, you're in the thick of it, right? COVID. Everyone's in the thick of it. Some people more than others. I would say you're kind of in the thickest part as far as like stringent shutdowns and those types of things. How has your communication and your new patient onboarding process changed with COVID? What things have you implemented to help with that?
So early on, excuse me, early on, we had kind of an interesting situation. We actually have 2 locations, and the staff in one location came to me and said, "Hey, we're not comfortable working." The other staff said, "We're okay working," but we had some restrictions in that office of how many people we could have in the building at a time, and the distancing issue, which we rearranged all of our equipment to accommodate that. So what we did is we converted as many patients who were interested to, we call them online video visits. We found out the hard way that when you ask somebody if they want a telehealth visit, they don't understand that. And they seem to understand, we're going to go on a computer, we'll see each other, it's a video, we're going to do that kind of a visit. So for 1 month, 6 weeks or so, that's all we did in one office. The other office was still running. But what became apparent was physical therapy, whether there's COVID pandemic or not, is changing, and it's continuing to evolve. And so there was this huge spike in telehealth because the insurance companies saw that as a way to get their patients treated. That eventually is going to die back down to some extent. It will never go away. It's always going to be more than it was before. Personally, my perspective is 100% telehealth, which we've done, is probably not the answer. There needs to be some kind of mix between the two. So we've been working on a hybrid model, which goes back to the time issue you mentioned before, Adam, which is if you call me today and you want to be seen today, we can jump on a video visit today and start the physical therapy process. After we get that started, we can schedule you to come in the office. And depending on which way the wind's blowing with the pandemic in our area, we can switch to more video. And if things die down, we switch to more brick and mortar. And so we've been going back and forth with most of our patients to limit the time in the office, limit the risk, mitigate the fear factor by using a hybrid model. And so that is one of the things that's made a big difference for us. You don't have to make a commitment to come 3 days a week.
It's actually helped with our cancellation rate too, because they'll call and instead of saying I need to cancel, they'll say, "Hey, I can't come in. Can I have a video visit?" Absolutely. We're all in a business, but our goal is to help people get better. So that's probably a really good thing that's come out of this for us is we've branched out and we've expanded our box and we've included this additional option, which has really helped a lot of people who would have normally, if they're in too much pain, would have canceled their appointment. So it's been really nice. And, our entire staff has been able to communicate with our patients more because of the text messaging, because of the new features that we have and have fully utilized for the last 2 years. So it's just easier to communicate. People are busy. So it's been really nice to strengthen that bond with our patients, which I think just in turn, makes everyone work together better.
Yeah, and when we have people working from home, which has come and gone over this last 6-7 months, it's easy to extend the office with the Weave app on their cell phone. Patients don't even understand we're not necessarily sitting in our brick and mortar location because it's seamless. The other thing we've done is we've been working on an app that is a hybrid model app, but it also has the capability of providing content on a subscription basis so that if you had a person who finished their physical therapy and maybe they wanted to still have some sort of contact or training, they can subscribe, and it's a way to generate cash, which that kind of came out of this pandemic. It's a plus for us. We're getting ready to roll that out in the next couple of weeks. So we're really excited about that.
That's really awesome. As far as when you say like a subscription for information, are you just sending out email content, or is this like you're doing a YouTube video or a video that you're uploading and giving tips? How does that information come through?
The platform allows several things: newsletters, specific content. You can segment your patients into groups by diagnosis, groups by interest. So soccer club, for example, or bicycling enthusiasts or runners. And you can develop your own content. We're looking for people who have content developed that want to provide it for a fee, and we're going to charge the patient a fee, and the provider of the content can make some money. And really the thought process where we started was to extend the long-term value, the lifetime value of the patient. Patients will come to physical therapy, 10, 12, whatever visits, but a lot of them still want ongoing information. They just don't want to come in the office to necessarily get it and burn an hour. And you always have time issues, you always have distance issues, and that helps eliminate those issues. So we think that when it's fully implemented, an office clinician could probably generate significant amount of money. We're thinking $1,500 to $2,000 per clinician in subscription fees that helps the business and still helps patients. And our goal, our primary goal where we practice is to make an impact in the community. That's number one goal. So we think that goes a long way to help make an impact in our community.
Yeah, that seems really smart. You know, I've had physical therapy for different things, surgeries, injuries, and yeah, same thing. I go and I go through all the therapy, and then, you know, maybe a couple of years later, my shoulder that I went through therapy for is hurting again. And, you know, I maybe just do some of the exercises that they put me through and try to like nurse it back to health myself rather than going in again. But yeah, having a subscription model like that would be extremely helpful. So that's awesome. So a couple takeaways there from the COVID. I really like the hybrid model. I really like being able to shift back and forth depending on what happens, because it keeps changing, right? And recommendations keep changing and limitations keep changing. So being able to be flexible with that, but still help people is huge. So you mentioned one thing that I thought was really important, not calling it telehealth. You know, everyone in the healthcare industry is familiar with the word telehealth, right? And a lot of times we communicate that to patients and we think that they're on the same page as us because we talk about it and we know what it is, but they're not. They're not in a medical practice all day. They're not in a physical therapy practice all day. And so calling it online video visits or, you know, something that they're going to understand more as you offer that is probably going to be a huge factor in how many people actually adopt that.
Yeah, we found out the hard way. We actually had a very busy practice, and we started calling patients when we shut down and saying, would you like to do telehealth? The answer was no. And
or
so,
they thought they had to go back to their doctor because that's what they had always referred or associated with.
Yes.
Sure.
So we were looking at the numbers one day, and it's like, this just does not make sense to me. How can this be happening? And so we went back and we called them and said, we talked about telehealth, but would you like to do, instead of telehealth, would you like to do an online video visit where you can see the physical therapist on computer or your cell phone and have a discussion, go through exercises? That they understood. And it was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is so simple, but it was not understood the way a practitioner would understand it.
Exactly. And then Jess, you mentioned a couple things as far as texting and, you know, having patients that are used to that. I've also seen something in, you know, if you're not proactively using text message and it's not something that your patients are used to, this is probably the best opportunity to implement text messaging, hands down. And the reason is almost every local business that I've gone to since COVID started, I almost always get a text message in advance letting me know how things are going to go when I get there. You're going to do this, and then this will happen. And, you know, they're letting me know how things have changed. And that's a text message, right? So I almost expect that from everyone that I go visit. If I go visit a local business and they don't send that to me, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're like taking precautions, right?
Yep.
So it's a really great opportunity to roll out text messaging, which is super, super helpful in all areas of practice once you have that going, and that's a common communication method.
Right.
So I like that you brought that up as well. So some really, really good information there regarding COVID. I would have expected nothing less because your offices have had to get creative. So that's really awesome.
We might implement giving out lollipops at the end of a visit at this point. So.
All right. So this last question, probably one of my favorite questions. I love asking people this, but if you had to take, you both have a lot of experience, and Bob, you again have more experience than I have years alive. That's amazing. If you could take all of that experience and go back to yourself or someone who's starting a practice out on day one, what advice would you give them and why?
Yeah, I think two pieces of advice. APTA just asked a similar question that I responded to because it's such a revelation today. First of all, the very fact that you graduated from school gives you the right to do what you do. You don't have to make a big deal that you went to a certain school, that you have 15 letters after your name. The fact that you're there gives you the right to do what you do. And that's not the most pressing revelation, but the most pressing revelation is because I was a physical therapist, because I had an office with a website, I thought people would show up. And what I learned over the years is people would show up if you ask them to make a purchase or make a decision. Having a website is great, but if there is no call to action, it doesn't really matter. You have to have a call to action. And for years, I didn't understand that. We did very well. Times were different then. But today, you have to have a clear message with a call to action that makes them click the button, pick up the phone, send a text message. And people who don't understand that, I think, are going to suffer. And I think the people who do get that are going to do well.
Yeah, that's great advice. Both of those pieces of advice are huge. The first one seems so simple, but I've seen this paralysis in a lot of different professionals, and even in myself in some situations where we tell ourselves, I'm going to go after it really hard when I this, right? Or once I do this, I'm going to do better once I do this, or I'm going to be more aggressive at promoting my business once I've accomplished this. And we set these things for ourselves rather than just starting right now, right? Like if you have the degree, you have the ability to help people, and you should be going after it right now. Like, and like you said, make sure that call to action is clear. Try to get anywhere where people are going to be searching for you. You've mentioned a few places, your website, reviews, anything that, one that I'll bring up is Google My Business, which is where your reviews are housed, but there's a lot more that you can do with that. But making your call to actions clear, making the story very, you mentioned this earlier, very clear, why they should come to you, just simplifying it. Very, very strong advice. Well, I'm trying to keep these as short as possible so people can digest them, implement the things. I think there were a lot of things in this interview that can provide a lot of value to a lot of physical therapists. So I really appreciate your time. Any last comments or anything that you want to mention that you didn't get to mention in any of the questions?
I want to go back to the last question, to the first point. From what I see as being a clinic owner and looking at staff that comes on board, it's I'm too young, I'm too old, I don't know enough about that. That's what I'm referring to. You have the right to be there. And I like helping people. Jess likes helping people. If anybody's interested and they want to reach out to you, we'll give you our contact information. They can reach out to us. We'd be happy to see if we can help anybody that has a desire to seek a solution to their issue, whatever that may be.
That's awesome. That's really, really generous offer. This will be in the form of a YouTube video. We'll monitor the comments. If we get any comments directed specifically at you, maybe we can put you in touch with the person who's asking the questions. But that's very generous. Again, I really appreciate your time. I hope anyone watching got some really valuable information out of this. But thanks for being on our In the Trenches podcast or webinar, and we'll see you all later.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks so much, Adam. Have a great day.